Thanks everybody for coming out. This is the NordPass unveiled centralized password control for MSP profit and protection. Um, it is basically the launch webinar for NordPass at Sherweb. You may have been here last week when we did the Nord layer. This is sort of the cousin of that webinar. With me today, I'll be joined by Mike Vogel and Kyle Tatum again from Nord Security. Before we start, just a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. You will be sent a recording of this webinar in a couple of days. It will also contain a link to the presentation. If you have any questions, the software that we are using contains a Q&A section. Please, we strongly encourage you to put any question that you have directly into that box. We will try to answer every question as we go. We have a little bit of time at the end as well. And then if we don't get to one of the question or if it's too specific to your situation, then we'll come back to you after the webinar directly and make sure that you have all the information that you need. Today, we're going to go through what we usually go through. So we'll talk a little bit about, we'll touch on briefly on what is Nord Security. We talked about it last time. I think it's important to have a sort of a clear image. But then we'll talk about cybersecurity, identity and access management, and password management for MSPs. It's one of those topics where when I wasn't managing the product or the product category, I was thinking that, and it was a couple of years ago, I was thinking that everybody was set on that. Everybody had a centralized like business quality or commercial quality password management system, and everybody was going. Now that I'm both hands in it and we're talking to partners and everything and looking at it, like it looked like there is still quite a bit of a gap there that needs to be addressed. I'm curious why the people that are here in the sense of, do you not have a password management system, identity and access management? Are you looking to evolve it? Are you looking to do better? Or are you dissatisfied with the solution you currently have? If you feel like letting us know, put some comments in either in the chat or in the question section. I'll be happy to hear from you guys. Let's get started. So the first thing, Mike, you're going to give us a bit of an introduction to who Nord Security is and how sort of NordPass fits into that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Guillaume. So for those of you that were with us last week, bear with me for the next probably 120 seconds while I give the quick overview of the Nord Security Business Suite once again. It consists of three products: NordPass, which we'll be talking about today, Nord Layer, we spoke about last week. Nord Stellar is going to be the coming soon, hopefully before the end of the quarter. Nord Security, all of these products are born out of what everyone knows as NordVPN. NordVPN being the #1 VPN in the world and the predecessor to all these great B2B products. One thing to keep in mind, separate products. NordVPN is a consumer product. There is also a NordPass consumer version of the product. What we're here to talk about today is NordPass Enterprise, or B2B edition, I should say. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Kyle. So these three products are today separate products. There's not one console today, but they do have a story behind them. Nord Stellar is our threat exposure management platform. Essentially allows you to monitor your clients, and when there is a breach, when their credentials are out in the wild and could be weaponized, it allows you to know that that's happening so that you can now go into what we'll talk about today, NordPass, and have your clients change passwords on those exposed credentials. NordPass, other than that mitigation, also gives you the ability to control difficulty of passwords, password sharing capabilities. I'll let Kyle go into the details, but it gives you control over the credentials of your clients to ensure that they're meeting certain criteria. And then finally, the other piece of the three pillars is Nord Layer. Nord Layer is going to give you that extra layer of protection so that even if those credentials are out in the wild and could be weaponized, if you're leveraging Nord Layer, it's going to give you that additional level of protection, knowing they can't be weaponized because they can't get to access to company resources unless they're going through Nord Layer. So that's kind of how all the three products work together. It's more, NordVPN was more about obscuring identity. Now Nord Security Business Suite, this is all about verifying identity, these three products. So that's my overview of Nord Security Business Suite. I'll now hand it off to Kyle so we can do a deep dive on NordPass.
Thanks, Mike. It's a good intro. So, Kyle, let's talk a little bit about identity and access management, password management. Like, you're in this space. You've been for quite a while. You talk to partners and clients and all that. Like, where do you see sort of the need today compared to before, and sort of where would you put emphasis on what's important for an MSP when they're looking at those types of solutions?
Sure. So I feel like the approach before, and honestly still for some people today, is really just about I am tired as an IT admin of resetting people's passwords and trying to make it easy to just have a system where people hopefully can store their passwords and make it just a simplicity thing. Hey, I don't want to be resetting passwords. It takes up time. Let's just give people a vault. That still is one of the value propositions of any password manager. I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't. But now you have the additional concerns around verifying identity, just as far as letting you into things as an organization, being able to control that from an administrative perspective, and what for you as an organization or as an MSP is considered verification of identity. Another big piece of this here, in my opinion, is now that we're seeing breaches really ramp up, people are getting more creative with them. Being able to store those passwords that obviously we're hoping not to forget, obviously, but to do so in a secure fashion so that, God forbid, if a bad actor were to try and get some access to your environment, the data is essentially useless to them. So it's no longer just about ease of use and expediting people's workflow. It's actually about securing the things that ultimately give people the keys to the kingdom for those companies. And I'd say that's the biggest change. On that note, I'll start diving right in if it's all right with you, Guillaume. So to kind of talk about some of those breaches and how they're ramping up, I'm not much of a stats guy. I don't want to bore you, and I don't plan on sliding you to death today. My plan is to expedite through the slides relatively quickly so we can get to a demo. But here's some just quick statistics that you see. About a quarter of those breaches that we're talking about are starting with a stolen credential of some sort. Year over year surge in attack. Stolen credentials is up 71% as of 2024. And the average breach, God forbid you're to be a victim of one of these things, for an organization of under 500 employees, which, by the way, is really our focus, the SMB and mid-market space, is generally a cost of about $3.3 million. So just some quick things to kind of give you some background there. The number one way that we see people kind of combat, I don't need a password manager, is that they say my browser does it today. Because I think every single one of us, whether we're using Google Chrome, whether we're using Brave, whether we're using Microsoft Edge, there is some level of password manager already built into those products, at least a very crude one, if you will. But again, back to my point earlier, the primary goal of those solutions is purely so that you don't forget your password and aren't doing a bunch of resets. What we're aiming to do is not only store those passwords so that you don't forget them or so you don't have to reset them, but doing so in a secure fashion. We'll talk about our encryption standards and everything like that in a little bit. But what we're able to provide here that these browsers are not able to do. We do end-to-end encryption at XChaCha20. We can share credentials in a safe manner. So we're going to be able to share those just inside of the organization with different levels of permissions. Again, I will show you that in the demo. We can force MFA into the password manager, or we can even use the password manager as an MFA tool. We're able to provide auditing around password strength. Is it a reused password? How old is it? All of that can be seen inside of NordPass. We're able to monitor the dark web with some functionality that we ported over from Stellar, so that if you are storing passwords here in NordPass, we're going to be able to tell you if some of them have unfortunately leaked onto the dark web and you need to take some measures there. We are HIPAA, GDPR, ISO, SOC 2 compliant. So any of your guys' customers that need to meet these levels of compliance standard, they are not going to be meeting those standards with their browser tools. Again, I think this point of do not function outside the respective ecosystem is better stated as you're enabling shadow IT, right? If we're allowing people to leverage 5 different browsers internally just because it's what they're most comfortable with, we have no means of monitoring those passwords, enforcing our password rules internally or anything like that. So just some highlights there. On top of the security pieces, the one thing that we're really proud of in NordPass and just in all of the Nord products in general is that with our history that Mike outlined for you already, being, the descendant of NordVPN, we have a lot of experience, about a decade and a half at this point, about creating tools that are optimizing user experience. Anybody here who's ever used our NordVPN consumer product can tell you how easy it is to use. My mom uses it. I use it. My mom is not a very savvy tech user, and I happen to be in the industry. So that tells you how it can kind of scale in either direction and be simple enough for anybody. That is what the solution looks like on the right-hand side. From a Vault perspective, again, they're big buttons that do what they say they're going to do. I truly believe our designers are sort of the masters of creating a nice little UI. So just a nice little quick view of how simple it is and what it should look like. We talked about some of this during the layer presentation of, what main pain points are we addressing? What should you be looking for in a client that can kind of expose a need for you so you can come in with a sales pitch? We talked about this earlier, minimizing the risk of human errors. So, bad passwords, password 1234, we can enforce policies to take care of that. Forgetting passwords and things like this. All of this is taken care of inside of NordPass. We're able to share credentials efficiently. Again, I think it's better for me to demo this for you, but just to think about it kind of abstractly, if you have a password today, or like right now, I'm actually technically on vacation right now. If Mike needed to get into something of mine while I'm out of office and I needed to share that password internally, how do I do it? Well, with NordPass, we have a safe way of doing it where I can even limit his level of access to that password. I can give him a certain time limit on having access to that password. If we didn't have a tool like NordPass, I'm having to send it over Slack and then he has that forever, right? So obviously not the safest way of doing it. Being able to oversee access management, a lot of this comes down to reporting. I will show you how granular the reporting is. It is by the second, especially in our sharing hub. We're able to meet compliance standards, as we kind of already talked about. So if any of you are dealing with clients in certain industries, or if they're trying to meet a cyber insurance policy, big topic of conversation that we're seeing a lot lately is we need cyber insurance. We know we need cyber insurance. We're in our review right now. They gave us this checklist. Password manager is on it. We will be able to help you meet those standards. And then obviously just building defense against breaches. I will talk about the dark web scanner and I will demo it for you a little bit, as well as talk about password health. I touched on some of these throughout, but just to talk about where we differ from the competition, I know that you guys see a lot of password managers. There's tons of them out there. What sets Nord apart, first and foremost, is always our ease of use. Any Nord product, this is going to be our flagship value proposition, is that one, you as an MSP should be able to adopt it and learn how to use it really quickly. You should be able to deploy any of our solutions, including NordPass, in under 10 minutes to one of your clients. The curve on learning it should be really, really easy. Our state-of-the-art encryption is another thing. Most of the competitive solutions in the market today are using AES 256. I'm not going to be the one here to slag off AES 256. It is still, for many people, the industry standard. It is FIPS compliant. I get why people love it. That being said, XChaCha 20 is kind of the new latest and greatest, and we chose to adopt that as the means of encrypting our passwords and storing them. Data breach scanner, again, we have a threat exposure management tool called NordStellar. We've integrated some of the functionality here into NordPass. No other tool on the market has anything as sophisticated as ours for this, and I feel very confident in saying that. And we are always very proud of our support. Any of you here on this call, if you need somebody, we have a team here in North America that can take care of you, as well as about 2,500 employees back at our offices in Europe that are also able to help you. So you should never be without assistance or somebody to support you. God forbid you need it. And as I said, I wanted to kind of speed through that and get right to the demo and get to what you guys care about. So I'm going to get out of this a little bit here and just transfer over here to the MSP. What you're seeing in front of you is the MSP panel for NordPass. This is accessed by going to msp.nordpass.com. Guillaume will talk to you about it in a little bit more depth here, but to gain access to this, you basically just have to go to the Sherweb marketplace, check out with the zero cost SKU, and that will get you instant access to this platform. Once you are in it, you are able to begin creating clients immediately. So there's no need to buy licenses in a pool or a minimum commitment or a package or anything like this. You can simply begin getting to work. So creating a new company is very easy. It's as simple as hitting add new organization. I can type in ABC customer, pick my subscription type, and then do I want to build them right away, which is standard, or give them a free 14-day trial where they can test the solution free of charge. You will also notice we have an option not for resale. All the Nord products provide the ability to do not for resale tenants, meaning you could create one tenant that is managed inside of your MSP account that is for your internal use and has free licenses. For NordPass, we give you 50 free internal licenses. I would assume that would cover most people's needs here on this call. If it doesn't, always reach out to us and we're willing to see what we can do to try and make it work for a larger organization. Once we make our choice on what this client's going to be, I hit save and the client is instantly created and they will appear as you see right here. Name of the client, the subscription type that we picked, business or enterprise, the activation rate. If I've sent out 10 invites, what percentage of those people have accepted the invite? Pending invites, is it, how many, if it's that same 10 and only 5 accepted, it's going to show 5 as pending. If those 5 accepted, they would show under billable seats, for example. So pretty easy to understand there. A lot of the data that you see here from a usage perspective can actually be pulled via a report here under usage data. Or if you are looking to automate the billings, we do have a ConnectWise PSA integration that's pre-built for you. Or if you're using a different tool that we currently don't have something pre-built for, you can just use the usage API to go ahead and report that data out to your PSA tool and automate those billings. Last thing I'll highlight here at the top level is just where you can create additional admins. So if you need more people in your company to have access to this panel, you just come here and invite them. Back to this level here, I've created my client. We're ready to go. We want to go ahead and view their environment. I could go ahead and just hit this, and it's going to take me from the MSP level down into what we call the control panel level, which is where I can view my individual client and their environment. Now, this environment is blank, so I want to switch over to a real environment that I have that has quite a bit of stuff in it, and I think will give you a little bit more visibility. So let me just switch over there quickly. This is not something you will have to do. This is just how we set up our demo platform. So just give me one moment. Great. So once you hit that button to go from the MSP level down to the customer environment, this is what it should look like to show you some real usage data. So at the dashboard level, we're first going to show you how many active users you have. You'll notice in this case, I have 96 active users. I have 23 pending. This means that 23 people I've sent invites to didn't accept. 6 people have been suspended, meaning they were once users and I've gone ahead and suspended their license so they cannot use NordPass at the time being. Below that, you'll see the data breach scanner. The data breach scanner is where we would report any credentials for any user that has been created inside of NordPass that has leaked onto the dark web. I will show you how we populate those in a moment, but it will be represented here either by just showing you the total number of breaches or people affected, and then you can hit view report at any time to see a more granular view on who those users are. Password health is going to be below that at the dashboard. This is going to say we have this many total passwords being stored, in this case 325. 310 of those in this demo environment fall into one of these categories. Exposed is going to mean that they appeared here in the dark web scanner. So we pulled that information off the dark web. It has been exposed. We want to go and make sure we change those right away. Weak is going to mean that they do not comply with our internal password policy, which I will show you how to set here in just a moment. Reused is pretty self-explanatory. They're using the password more than once. Old is going to mean that they do not comply with our password policy, but for how frequently it must be changed, which is basically determined by how frequently they've changed it in NordPass. And I will show you how to set that parameter in a moment as well. To create users, there's a couple different ways I can do it. I can hit invite new member at any time, and I can just pop in an email address. That's how simple it is to add a user. Another thing I can do is put in their domain and I would be able to create an invite that is specific to their domain and then send that out to all the relevant users, and they'd be able to create their own credential. I could also go ahead and create a CSV or a text file where I would be able to go ahead and just, have it in CSV, import 1,000 users at a time, whatever I need to do. We do have one more method, which is available under the provisioning tab right here. We can provision users with Microsoft Entra or Okta. We basically just integrate with the Active Directory environment and provision users directly from there. We can not only carry over users, but we can actually carry over groups as well. Back here at the members, regardless of how I've created them, they're going to fall into these different categories. Active is pretty self-explanatory. They've accepted the invite. They're using the solution. I can see when their last activity was. Pending is going to allow me to see how many people that I've sent invites out to didn't accept those invites. I want to find out why. I can reach out to these people. Suspended, again, people who were on the platform, but I've gone ahead and suspended them for one reason or another. Maybe they left the company or something. Recoveries. We talked earlier about forgetting your password. I know this will shock everybody here, but even when we store passwords, simple that people only have to remember one password, they still forget that one sometimes. When that happens, they can request a recovery. That prompt will come to you as the MSP, and you can choose to grant or deny that recovery. Deleted. This is a really cool functionality. So let's just walk through the example I went through earlier. Let's say that Mike fires me tomorrow. Mike fires me tomorrow, and I have a password that he needs to grab because I'm now leaving the company, and he needs to access something that I previously was the only person who had access to. He can delete me as a user. I'm going to go into this trash can sort of bin, right? Very similar to the trash can on a Windows laptop, where it sort of sits in purgatory. I can then go ahead and hit transfer, and then I'd be able to transfer those items out to the admin. This is going to allow me as an admin to go ahead and sort through those passwords, determine which we need to keep internally. I could take ownership of those. The rest of them I can go ahead and clear and delete from the platform entirely. Fantastic. One more thing that I will cover on the members, licensing, and things like this. We can separate users into groups. This will particularly come into play when we talk about sharing of credentials, but there are other uses for it as well. Bottom line, we can carry these groups over, as I mentioned, from an Active Directory solution, or we can manually create the group here. And then once we name it, I can select any group and add members to that group from my user list. Very, very, very simple. The sharing hub is a nice little thing that we actually pretty recently added to the product. So let's take that example I was just outlining. Let's say I've created a group. On top of creating that group, I have a folder worth of credentials, which can be created. And then I want to share that folder worth credential with a whole group. As an admin, that's obviously something I'm interested to know. Who's sharing what with who? Why are they sharing it? I can go here to the sharing hub. Now let's take a look at this one, for example. There's a folder called B2B Direct Tools. If I click on it, I can see the passwords in here. If I were to go back here, I can see, okay, this folder has been created. It has 12 items. CMOS is the creator and the owner of this folder. He has chose to share it with these people. You'll notice that he's sharing it not only with individual users, which is a possibility, or we can share it with a whole group. When we share it with those individual users or the groups, we can choose at what level we share it. So you'll notice there's different levels of access being outlined for different users or groups. Can edit is the highest level of access. This basically makes the person a co-administrator. They can go ahead and edit that password, change it. They can mess it up entirely. Pretty much the only thing that they cannot do is delete it. Can share level of access is going to eliminate that ability to edit it, but I would still be able to have that password that has been shared with me and share it with another employee. Can view is going to take away the ability to share. I can still view the password, I can copy and paste it, or I can autofill it, but that's all I can do. And then finally, can autofill only is the lowest level of access. This means I cannot view the password, I can't copy and paste it, I can't share it, I can't edit it. Literally the only way that I can use the password if it's been shared with me like this is to go to the appropriate website and allow NordPass to log me in. We've done some testing on this. The real only kind of gap at all, if you can even call it that we found where you would be able to attempt to try and get this password and figure it out is to switch your browser into developer mode and then track the actions that are happening in developer mode to watch what the password is. Very, very advanced thing to do. A majority of users are going to have no idea how you would even attempt that. So just something to think about there. And then at any time, we can transfer ownership to another user as well if we need to. Great. The activity log. We talked earlier in the slide deck about, where reporting comes in and how granular we can get. I already showed you some stuff at the dashboard level, but at the individual organization level, I can actually show action by action what people are doing, even it's sort of call it an inconsequential action. So you'll notice here, it says that just during this demo, minute by minute here, you're seeing that I logged into the extension, and I'm coming from this IP address. I was able to log in right here. Admin panel was accessed. I went and viewed the item list in the specific folder where the credentials, as I just showed you guys, and I looked at the sharing list to see who it was being shared with. So I'm seeing everything that every single individual user is able to do inside of here. It's really, really handy, especially if you're trying to go backwards, look at something during an audit or something like this. Cool. Let's talk about the security settings and how we lock things down. So we've covered a lot of how we just do the general stuff. How do we create a user, share things? But let's say I want to enforce policies around, hey, yeah, you can share a password, but it has to meet a certain level of credential. Well, we can do that here. Password policy is available. You can go ahead and list the minimum characters, uppercase, lowercase, digits, special characters, and how often it has to be changed. To go back to the dashboard, this is where all of these password health things come in, is if it is violating the policy I've set out here, then it's going to show up in that report under the password health. Additionally, I have the ability to decide who these password policies apply to. Is it everyone? In my opinion, this is the sort of default and the best setting. But let's say that you have owners who just are not interested in being subject to this policy and they just want the rank and file employees to do it. You can take care of that here. Additionally here, we can actually control sharing. So I was showing you how you can share, but maybe you don't want everybody to have that privilege. You can limit that ability here and just make it by certain groups. You can even deactivate certain users' ability to do this. Do you want to use NordPass as an authenticator is also available here. So this is something we kind of hinted at again during these slides. A lot of you are probably implementing two-factor authentication policies with clients today. That is amazing. You should be doing that. There is sort of battle of the logic here on what is actually best for people. So if you're using something like NordPass and you have a two-factor authentication policy on, let's say, Salesforce, do you want that user to be able to also store the 2FA code inside of NordPass, or do you want to still use the cell phone that they have to go to the authenticator app? The benefit of using NordPass as the authenticator is obviously the ease of the workflow. You have remedial tech users, you don't feel confident they're going to be able to scan the QR codes and navigate that app effectively, have them store it here. The negative and the downside to that is it sort of takes away some of the magic of 2FA, which is that I'm requiring people to be on two different devices. So I have a little bit more certainty that it is actually the person that is trying to, or the person who owns the credential. Again, it's a pick your poison situation. There's benefits to both. You can make that decision individually for each company that you're servicing. Item exporting is available. Do you want to be able to export passwords into a CSV file? My general recommendation here is to keep this off. There really is no reason to have this activated unless you are planning on transitioning off from NordPass. Exposed passwords. We talked earlier about how we can set up dark web monitoring and show a certain amount of passwords that have been breached. You can actually view this as a user and see if any of your passwords have been leaked. This is taken care of right here under the tools right here. Now, if I want to shut this off, this just means I as an admin will be able to see it, but an individual user will not be able to see if one of their passwords has been leaked onto the dark web. Maybe that's information you want to keep close to the vest. You can take care of that here. Email masking, cool little functionality I'll show you in the tool settings later. Bottom line, we can create fake email addresses at will. Let's say you're going to a conference, you want to sign up for their internet, you don't want to receive the junk emails after the conference, trying to get you to go next year or whatever it may be. You can go ahead and create a fake email, an email mask, if you will, sign up for the internet. Those emails will automatically forward to you until you decide that they shouldn't anymore, at which time you can turn the email mask off and all of those emails will dead end. Do you want to allow for offline mode? This is something that we just introduced, where now if you turn on offline mode, the passwords that you have in your vault will actually sync with your mobile device and stay locally stored. So, you're on your plane, you don't have access to the Delta Wi-Fi yet, you still need your passwords, you can still be able to do that. Do you want to allow jailbroken devices access? You can go ahead and shut that off as well if you'd like. Covered everything here. We're going to go to authentication now. This is where we basically set up our single sign-on policies. It's pretty straightforward. We can do single sign-on into NordPass with Google, Entra, Okta, or Microsoft Active Directory Federated Services. You can also use the Nord business account if you want, but most people are going to use one of these three. Do you want to force users to do 2FA? You can take care of that here. This means that, again, not are they using NordPass as an authenticator, but they would need to put in a 6-digit code to get into NordPass in the first place. Again, versus what we just talked about, sort of a chicken before the egg situation, you choose what you'd like to do. Do you want to have a certain amount of session time, meaning they've been logged in for a certain amount of time, and then we're going to force log them out so that they have to re-authenticate? On top of re-authentication, we can choose to just block the vault so it doesn't completely log them out, but they have to enter their master password to decrypt their vault. You can set a setting here that is very similar to this. And then you can set this even a little bit more granularly where it doesn't just apply to everything, but maybe I just want a different policy for the browser extension. Again, it kind of is just sort of a Russian nesting egg doll, if you will, of different levels of that policy, kind of getting a little bit more granular down the road. Provisioning we already talked about. Let's go to admin panel. I said earlier I would show you how we set up dark web monitoring. You do it here in the admin panel settings. You go to dark data breach scanner, you hit add domain, and then you can just put in the domain of your end customer. This is included in the license, so no additional charge. Once you enter that, those results will immediately populate back here at the dashboard. If at any time you view those results and you are looking for a little bit more granular data, eventually we will have that available for you at Sherweb. You'll be able to check out with the zero cost view and just gain access to the Sherweb platform, scan those same environment or access to the Nord Stellar platform and dive deeper on those findings. Finally, the integrations piece. You'll notice all of these integrations tools at the organizational level are for your SIEM tools. The data that is being sent out here is from the activity log. So what I showed you earlier, this person logged in, this person viewed this credential, so on and so forth. This data can be fed into those SIEM tools. We have pre-made integrations with Vanta, Splunk, or Microsoft Sentinel. And then we also can allow you to just do a custom one if you're using a different third-party tool. I think that is a majority of what I had for you, really. I'll talk about the user experience, and then we'll just open it up to Q&A. What you just saw me open up in the upper right-hand corner there is the browser extension. All those policies, everything that's been set by the MSP is now being dictated down to me as a user. My passwords are here. You'll notice I can go to a password at any time, and I could go ahead and just click on this, and then there you go. There's the password. You'll notice here, this has been shared with me, and it's been shared with me at a certain level of access. You'll notice I cannot view the password, and I can't copy and paste it. I can't share it. I can't edit it. This means that this has been shared with me with can autofill only level of access. So if I were to go to this website, the only thing that I can do is let the browser extension autofill it and log me in. So pretty straightforward. Yeah, this is how the general passwords work. In the settings, there are some things I can set at my own personal level. I can look and view all my different passwords, credit cards, things like this. I can create folders, whether those be individual folders for myself or shared folders that I want to send out with people. We have a password generator. So if I have that complicated password policy, which I just showed you, about 30 characters, has to have all these different types of things, you'll notice the password generator automatically complies. I cannot get below 30 characters on the password generator. It automatically defaults to the policy set by the organization or MSP. So really, really useful. I talked about email masking. This is where I can actually create an email mask. Just do that at any time. New email mask pops up, and now I could go ahead and register for that Wi-Fi. If I want to view my individual password health, not for the organization, I can go ahead and take care of that here. So you'll notice for my particular account, I have 2 passwords that are out of compliance. And then we talked earlier, you can share the results from the data breach scanner with the individual users. In my case, I don't have any breaches, but if I did have any and this was enabled for me at the user level, I would be able to see them here. I think that's really a majority of everything. Yeah, that's what I got for you. So I guess that's perfect time for me to stop sharing, at least for a moment, and open up for a little Q&A, and then I can reshare back to the deck here.
Thanks, Kyle. I'll go to a question now, and maybe we can come back to the end. If you guys have other questions, make sure you put them into the system. I don't know if you covered it, but the fact that it's a browser extension probably help answer it. So the question we got is, what about Macs? And then my question is, what about Linux? What about other operating systems? How's the compatibility there?
Yes, so there's like 2 different levels. We have an application. The application is available on Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android. So it's cross-platform. The browser extension is a separate piece. Obviously, it's the same vault. You can implement the browser extension on whatever browser of your choice. Brave, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, really whatever you got. Mozilla Firefox, it's all there.
Great, terrific, good news. We're almost out of time, but I'll spend a few minutes on how to get NordPass at Sherweb. Pretty typical, but we can spend a minute. Kyle, if you want to flip me forward, which is not an easy thing to do, believe me. So the question is, like, why get NordPass through Sherweb? And as most of you are Sherweb partners, I think that may seem a bit obvious, but seamless onboarding and support, we've made it very, very streamlined now to get into our products. Very, very straightforward. Support, same thing. Like we've really put into place processes that makes it seamless to get support from us. We've had quite a few comments, not specifically for Nord Security, I have to say, but for people that we've launched. You can try to guess. For people that we've launched in the last year round, where one of the things that people appreciate the most is the support that they get from us instead of the support they're getting directly from the vendor. So that's generally seen as a positive so far. It's one of the things that we were not worried but concerned about that we've addressed through a centralized marketplace. And then, anything that you buy through Sherweb then gets you on your way to having the largest possible discount as a partner. Your volume discount goes up. So obviously NordPass is part of that volume. And the more things you put with Sherweb, the better you'll be doing when it comes to that volume discount and the attention that you'll be getting at Sherweb, obviously. Kind of move forward a couple of times again. Whoa. So how to get started? Well, so there's a 14-day trial and there's an NFR. We strongly, and I think Mike and Kyle would agree, like best way for an MSP to get started with any new technology before they start pushing it to their clients is start using it. Install it, start exploring it, leverage it for yourself. If you have questions and comments, if you need support, if you're not sure how to address some of your use cases, gives you the opportunity to ask some questions. And then when you go to implement it with your client, makes it real easy, makes it real intuitive. Activation process is like all of our new products. It's in the vendor management in Cubulus. So you go and you activate your MSP account for NordPass. Once you've done that, you can access the technical platform where you can provision company users and everything that Kyle has just showed us. And all of that will then get pulled back into our billing system, usage and billing system. So you'll see your usage in our consumption tab, and then you'll get the billing on your bill, obviously. There's a video here. We are aware that you can't click your screen to access this link. It will be sent to you as we send the presentation, so you'll have access to that video. It's basically the demo of our vendor management platform. Trying to just flip forward one last time. If you have any questions or comment, please reach out to our partner management. Let me see if I have. So one of the question. So what about compliance? Are there specific, like, it's a question we often get. I'll try to phrase it in a way that sort of covers as wide as possible of a scope, but we get questioned a lot like that around our security product. And basically what the person wants to know, the partner wants to know is, do you have certain certification, compliance, and things like that? Like, do you have maybe a page on your site or things like that where we can see what your products are compliant with? Or do you have also documentation to help people, like if they're trying to, for example, be CMMC compliant or NIST, like NIST 800-191? Like, do you have documentation to help people sort of how to leverage your software to help do that? Obviously, a software does not give you compliance. I think it's an important thing to understand, but is there some documentation to help with that?
Yeah, so there's different levels of it. Probably the most detailed one that we have right now on like actual mapping features to controls is going to be the CIS control framework. Yeah. This is something that we've done internally with the product team that is readily available. I don't know if it's actually publicly published on our website, but you can just request it. We can send it. GDPR, NIST, HIPAA, anything like this, I would have to ask the product team if they have any internal documentation that is available for sharing. But we can definitely at least provide some guidance from the product team. Final thing that I would highlight is I know for a lot of people, specifically around HIPAA, the question is, do we sign BAAs? And we do. So if that is a need for you on certifying compliance and signing a BAA, we can do that at any time.
Thank you very much.
Similar to that, Guillaume, we can get copies of our SOC 2 certifications for our data centers. So yeah, there's multiple things we can do as far around compliance.
Okay, great. So I think the general answer is a very resounding yes. And then if you have a specific question, come talk to us and we'll figure it out how we can best help you with your particular situation. We are exactly on time, so that's good. Very disciplined. I think everybody will appreciate it. If anybody has any question or comment, don't hesitate to send it to us. I want to thank Mike and Kyle again for being here, and we'll see you within our marketplace. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.